Elon and I have hugged it out.
You've hugged it out?
Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JPMorgan Chase at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. His message to the American public after Donald Trump's second inauguration.
The problem with putting a voter in a box is a voter may be voting for someone for completely different reasons than you think or I think. Respect why they may have grievances or anger.
One of those grievances, efficiency. Will Elon Musk's Doge be enough?
We deserve good government. And I don't think anyone thinks sending another $1 trillion to Washington, D.C. will lend to good government.
Plus, Jamie Dimon on the state of his own bank, America's largest, JPMorgan's future.
You now have a couple of activists going after your company.
Really? Not that I'm aware.
Are you aware of this?
Well, bring them on.
I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Squawk Pod reports from Davos. JPMorgan Chase's Jamie Dimon begins right now. JPMorgan Chase is the largest bank in the United States with more than 80 million customers, and it's been run for nearly 20 years by CEO Jamie Dimon, one of America's highest-profile corporate executives. And as the 55th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum continues in Davos, Switzerland, leaders in boardrooms and governments are closely monitoring the Day 1 and Day 2 executive orders from President Trump during his first days back in office. On stage at the World Economic Forum on Tuesday, JPMorgan's head of wealth management, Mary Erdos, said the bank has set up a, quote, war room on trade and geopolitics to manage response to the flurry of news from Washington. The European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, was upbeat about Europe's prospects being open for business to the rest of the world, regardless of what happens in America.
Our message to the world is simple. If there are mutual benefits in sight, we are ready to engage with you. If you want to upgrade your clean tech industries, if you want to upscale your digital infrastructure, Europe is open for business.
And German Chancellor Olaf Scholz reinforcing the United States as Germany's closest ally outside of Europe and advised on, quote, cool heads in the first days of Trump's presidency.
Not every tweet should plunge us into a heated existential debate.
When Jamie Dimon joined Squawk Box's Davos coverage in early 2024, a year ago, he made headlines for his surprisingly full-throated defense of some elements of Trump policy in the first presidency and the people who support it.
When people say MAGA, they're actually looking at people voting for Trump and they think they're voting, and they're basically scapegoating them, that you are like him. But I don't think they're voting for Trump because of his family values. Now, if you look, just take a step back, be honest. He was kind of right about NATO, kind of right about immigration. He grew the economy quite well. Tax reform worked. He was right about some of China. And I don't like how he said things about Mexico. But he wasn't wrong about some of these critical issues.
So what does he think now? This interview was recorded on location in Switzerland in 2025. Jamie Dimon sat down with CNBC Squawk Box anchor Andrew Ross Sorkin. Becky Quick joined from the NASDAQ market site in New York.
Jamie Dimon, JPMorgan Chase Chairman and CEO. Thank you, sir, for being here once again.
Andrew, thrilled to be here. Though Becky, I miss you, and Joe, I'm sure you're watching. And I lost my wingman, so I'm not going to do a walk-off. But I was thinking about it.
Oh well, okay. So here, you know what though? I'm going to start with this though, because last year you were here, and your words went around the world because you told our audience you have to respect the Trump voter. You said that Trump got it right on a lot of things, including immigration,
or partially right,
and some other things. And I'm curious what you watched the reaction in real time, and you got calls and emails and all sorts of things that didn't just happen the day of, but I think happened for months afterwards. What that was like for you, and also what you think now.
Well, first of all, welcome everybody. Thrilled to be here. Of course, ever have an opinion, as you guys know, it comes up everywhere. And a lot of what people are responding to isn't what you said or thought, it's just what snippets they heard or something like that. So I'm used to that. I was really just trying to make the point of respect a voter. The problem with putting a voter in a box is a voter may be voting for someone for completely different reasons than you think or I think or something like that. And respect why they may have grievances or angers. And I was trying to point out that there was some, we had problems with the border wall, that NATO needed to spend more money, that the economy wasn't growing enough. We hadn't grown the income to the bottom 20% for the better part of 20 years. And that we should respect that. And when people automatically, get angry over an issue, it takes away their ability to analyze why that person may be voting that way.
So let me ask you about how you feel now, because you made a comment about a week ago where you said, not that you were cautiously optimistic about our economy, and there's, by the way, I think a lot of optimism by U.S. CEOs, but you said you were cautiously pessimistic.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know where I said it, I was probably making a little bit of a joke, but I do have a little more caution around a bunch of subjects, okay? And while America is an unbelievable place, the growth is unbelievable, pro-business growth is great, getting rid of, I hate the word regulation, because it sounds like we're trying to get away with something, but the bureaucracy, the whole American public knows the bureaucracy. It is extraordinary, and it's been allowed to blossom like a cancer all throughout our country, and it damages everybody quite a bit. And so, but what I'm a little cautious about is the deficit spending, and it's a global issue, it's not just an American issue. And the related, will inflation go away? I'm not so sure. And what if rates go up, credit spreads go up? Asset prices are already quite elevated. So that's kind of one issue. But the really important one is geopolitics. It's Ukraine, Iran, Russia, North Korea, and the related role of China in that. And that just got me very concerned how it's going to affect our world for the next 100 years, whether or not these things get resolved in the next couple of next year or months or whatever.
Where do tariffs fit in? Because that's a topic here in Davos that everybody's talking about. Trump talked about tariffs just yesterday. Mary Erdos, your colleague, was on stage talking about how your firm has created a quote-unquote war room that's looking at each of these executive orders as they come in, trying to assess what they mean for the bank and I imagine for your clients.
Yeah, so we always, war room may be a bad word, but this is a real-time, full thing, analyzing for clients, for communities, for a bank. We get a million questions, stuff like that. Look, I look at tariffs, they are an economic tool. That's it. They're an economic weapon, depending how you use it and why you use it and stuff like that. And, people argue, is it inflationary and non-inflationary? I would put in perspective, if it's a little inflationary, but it's good for national security, so be it. Get over it. National security trumps a little bit more inflation. But I think the question is how they get used. Can they be used to bring people to the table? Yes. Is there some unfair trade? Yes. Is there some state-owned subsidies? Yes. Is the president going to use that way in his team? Yeah, and we'll see. But, how it gets played out, we're going to find out. And
on the topic of the markets, Becky and I were talking on the broadcast yesterday about an article in the Wall Street Journal that was looking at the beginning of presidential terms and the PE ratio. And we are at historic highs. Yeah. And I wonder whether that factors into your thinking about being cautiously pessimistic about where the market goes in this environment. Are we priced for perfection?
Yeah. I think asset prices are kind of inflated. And, by any measure, they're top 10 or 15%. I'm talking about the U.S. stock market, but it's not true for stock markets around the world. And they say sovereign debt's priced pretty well. Credit spreads are all all-time highs. So, yeah, they're elevated.
They're elevated.
And you need fairly good outcomes to justify those prices. And we're all hoping for that. And I think, having pro-growth strategies helps make that happen, but there are negatives out there, and they can tend to surprise you.
Hey, Becky. I think Becky's got a question for you back home.
Yeah, Jamie, first of all, hi. Great to see you. Second of all, the stronger dollar. How do you weigh into that? And I'm just thinking because it was a really rapid rise for the dollar, and that's going to mean some things for some of these international companies, especially if you consider the potential for tariffs and retribution tariffs on the other side. How do you kind of play that out? And is that one of the things you guys are gaming out in the war room?
Yeah, I don't think it's as important as people think. The stronger dollar is an outcome of all these other things. And so, all things being equal, an American president, an American secretary of Treasury can say we want a stronger dollar, because what that means is that your economy is strengthening versus others generally. So, it'll bounce around, and of course, tariffs can change the dollar, but the most important thing is growth. Good economic growth is good for the United States, probably will strengthen the dollar. And so, we should be wishing for that. And yes, it'll have some negative effects on some companies, but most people will be voting for the better growth around the world.
I'm curious.
And I should point out, the world needs more growth. So even being here with Europe, you talk to European nations and how their GDP stagnated for the better part of 15 years. Growth is the only real solution to reduce these deficits, to reduce debt, and to make the investments necessary to grow. A lot of the investments, by the way, don't think it's government investment. Think it's also private capital. Private capital dwarfs government investment. And so I think you have to be very careful about thinking the government can fix all these things.
Do you think other nations, say Europe and around, do you think that they are recognizing that and thinking that they need to change their ways to be more like the United States, to go after bureaucracy, to maybe change tax codes, to try and lure private capital?
Totally. I mean, I heard a little bit of a speech from the President von der Leyen yesterday. I met today with some, Chancellor Reeves of the UK. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't understand that they need more growth and that certain things that people have done have inhibited growth. Inhibited its regulations, its permitting, its rules, its, I put in general anti-business sentiment, is having kids having skills getting out. I think everyone realizes that, but the real trick here is execution. You can talk about it all you want. The Draghi report, I mean, that's great, but they have to execute the Draghi report. And so a lot of people are talking about the Draghi report, and I think in the United States, it's the same thing. People are realizing how damaging these things have been.
Talking about the United States, I'm curious what you think about Doge and what Elon Musk is doing. You've had a frenemy, complicated relationship with Elon Musk over the years, given lawsuits and other things back and forth. What do you think of his role in all of this, and what do you think Doge can actually do?
Yeah, Elon and I have hugged it out at this
You've hugged it out?
Yeah, he came to one of our conferences. He and I had a nice long chat. We've settled some of our differences. And the guy, you got to look at Elon. I mean, SpaceX. I mean, Tesla. Neuralink. The guy is our Einstein. And so and I like to be helpful to him and his company as much as we can. I think it is completely rational for someone to look at our government and say it's been ineffective. Of the grievances, I would say that you have inner city schools and educations, income didn't go up for the bottom 20% for the better part of 20 years, literally until the tail end of Trump's first administration. But we deserve good government. And I don't think anyone thinks sending another $1 trillion to Washington, D.C. will lend to good government. So government needs to be more accountable. It needs to be more efficient. It should be outcomes-based. I mean, I say department by department, so I wish them the best. It's going to be complicated. The federal government's complicated. You read about all the people in it. And so, if we could be helpful to them, and I'd love to be helpful to them.
Let me ask you about the bank, because it's on fire. Profit rising 50%, $14 billion in the fourth quarter, which is extraordinary. Where are you? I mean, one of the things you've done over the years that I'll give you enormous, without pandering you, I'll give you some credit for a moment, which is obviously the bank is stronger than it's ever been, but you've been very opportunistic about buying things and being in a position to buy things when the moment arises. First Republic being the last example, but of course during the financial crisis. I'm curious, when you think about investing now on behalf of the bank, what you even look at.
Yeah, I don't think doing a big deal is like in our cards, and some of those were done to help the United States at the time. They weren't necessarily done for JPMorgan. And we have great people. I mean, a lot of them. I mean, I feel blessed with that. So that's the beginning thing. And obviously, if you don't have good people, you're not going to have a good bank. And at the end of the day, that is the number one thing. But in terms of investing, and I could go country by country, area by area, and think we can actually invest and grow. And investing shows up as bankers, physical locations, and technology, and marketing. So we spend a lot of money in marketing to create new cards and stuff like that. So we think we can gain share in investment banking, wealth management, retail, small business. We still have big pockets of, Daniel Pinto always talks about the yellows and the reds, where we're not very good. That could be FX in Vietnam, but those are huge opportunities done properly over time.
Let me ask you another question. I don't know if you saw this article. This is in the Wall Street Journal. Anti-DEI activists target Goldman Sachs and JPMorgan Chase. There's been a vibe shift. We talked about it a lot here in Davos. A rebuke of ESG, a rebuke of DEI. Robbie Starbuck is out there going after companies. You now have a couple of activists going after your company.
Really? Not that I'm aware of.
Are you aware of this?
Well, bring them on. No, I'm not aware of it.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, in terms of what you think your approach to DEI should be, given that we've seen a whole number of companies effectively end these programs, in large part under pressure. And by the way, it's worth pointing out, one of the first executive orders that President Trump put in place was to end DEI within the government.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, I don't like monikers, and it makes it sound like it's a binary thing of what you do. And so let me just tell you what we do, and what we've always done. It doesn't mean you're not going to change policies going forward. We've always done our own thing in climate. So we get criticized by people on the left and the right about climate. We've financed the biggest oil and gas companies, who've done a great job reducing their CO2, by the way. We're the biggest financer of solar and wind. And we finance companies. We finance Tesla at this point. We finance a lot of different things. And our outreach, and it's commercial. This is 90% for profit. We are going to continue to reach out to the Black community, the Hispanic community, the LGBT community, the veterans community, We have special programs for the disabled, Second Chance Initiative. And wherever I go, red states, blue states, green states, mayors, governors, and they like what we do.
Right.
So we're not trying to pander to any which side or any which thing. Now, if you pointed out something that we're doing that's wrong, I'd change it at the point. And, and we will make modifications going forward. But we're very proud of what we've done. And what we've done is lift up cities, schools, states, hospitals, countries, companies, and we're going to do more of the same.
So you're going to tell these activists to go pound sand, it sounds like.
I don't know which ones you're talking about. If they got something that we're doing wrong, I'd listen to what I have to say.
I got to ask you about a topic I know you hate to talk about, but I got to ask because the president is all in on it, which is Bitcoin, potentially a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Yeah.
You can now buy a Trump coin, meme coin, you can buy the Melania coin if you'd like.
Really?
No, what do you make of this? Because this could be a true shift.
Yeah.
In terms of, by the way, talking about the strength of the dollar, I don't know what you think happens to the strength of the dollar if Bitcoin becomes our reserve currency.
We use blockchain, and I think there'll be really useful blockchain and stable coins. We have a thing called the JPMorgan deposit token.
Yep.
So you can move money. It's a JPMorgan deposit worth par wherever you go. I'm not going to talk about the Bitcoin.
You're not going to talk about the Bitcoin?
Not at all. You guys talk about plenty. Just like you used to talk about AOL all the time. I'm not going to spend much time on it.
Well, let me ask you this, though. And maybe it just speaks to animal spirits or speculation or something in terms of the markets.
Yeah.
What do you make, though, of the public market? People are betting. By the way, they're gambling on sports. They're gambling on meme coins.
What's that show, Casablanca? Oh, they're gambling in my shop. Really? There's been gambling going on for millennial.
But does it say anything about this moment?
I have no interest.
In terms of the economy?
I have no interest in this particular subject. People are going to speculate. Some will win and some will lose.
Lastly, we always ask you the question, and well, it's the succession question, which is Doug Pinto, or Daniel Pinto, I apologize, I called him Doug Pinto, is going to be stepping down. You just mentioned him. He's been literally the, if you get hit by a bus guy who takes over. How do you feel about him stepping down, and how long do you think you're really going to continue doing this?
So Daniel has been such a magnificent partner. And for the public, just to know, he started as a kid in Argentina at 20. He ended up running a little piece of Argentina, then running trade in Latin America, then running emerging market trade, then running global trade, then running the CIB, helped build one of the best investment banks the world has. And he's been a partner of mine. He's trusted by everyone around. He'll still be around. He's not going away. And then hopefully he'll stay as which we said that he wants to, as a vice chairman after that, because he's got just enormous capability and stuff like that. But there's a time, and there's a time. And Daniel leaves a vacuum, but that's good because now other people have to fill that vacuum and give other people more things to do. I'm blessed to have great people. We're working on the succession, and we're convinced that we have a good one. You saw Jen Peepsack, who's another fabulous talent, who said she doesn't really want my job, I can't tell people what they're going to want and not want. I always kind of worry about that a little bit. But she's also devoted to the company, and she's going to stay. That brings huge continuity because she's willing to work with any of the people that you would speculate are going to be a successor.
Would you ever, 2028's around the corner.
What's about that?
For you?
Oh, no. If you're
never
running for any kind of office, no.
Is that really off the table?
Yeah. Well, no, you know me. I'm not going to make any promise to you. I will never make a promise to anyone, but I don't intend to do it.
Okay. Jamie Dimon, it's always good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Andrew, thank you. Folks, thank you. Miss you, Becky.
We'll see you back in New York.
Jamie.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this special Squawk Pod Reports. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernan, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Squawk Pod, this podcast, is produced by me, Katie Kramer, Cameron Costa, and Caroline Rahotis. John Lesration is our editor. That's it. Have a great day.